They were who they were, and anything they went after, they got. Sith Lords didn't give a damn what anyone thought about them, and they carved their own path in life, literally masters of their own destinies. Now, this was a quality that seemed the most attractive to me. In short, I wanted to be a Sith Lord, and this is essentially what my thesis centers on. In my view, the Sith are not about tyrannical power or the suffering of others just for the sake of it.
This guy's watching too much Fox News. Of course a conservative would defend a bunch of space fascists. The Sith were nothing but Nazis. How dare you defend them? I'm not sure how, but I know this video was in some way racist. The Sith are not conservative. What are you talking about? But Trump! But Trump! But Trump! But Trump!
Guys, I'm ecstatic that my video about the Sith got so much attention, as I did pour a lot of research into my thesis about conservatism and how it relates to Sith philosophy. But some of you don't realize that much of it was just my opinion. You know, I believe that a lot of my ideas were backed up by reliable evidence. But still, guys, it's at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. You know, that thing that everyone is allowed to have and likely express in this great country that we call America. Oh, one last point. You know, even though my analysis of a fictional group of science fiction villains and their real analogy of how they relate to modern day conservatives, none of it, and I do repeat, none of it had anything remotely to do with President Donald J. Trump, as, you know, most leftists were trying to scream off in the comments. You know, even though I did vote for the guy. Twice. Anyway, let's get back to part 2 of my continuing analysis of the Sith Order and how they further mirror real-world conservatism by examining the life and actions of one of my favorite expanded universe Sith Lords, none other than the legendary Darth Bane himself, progenitor of the dark side philosophy of the Rule of Two. But before we dive deep into that, I think we have to first look at the word conservative and what its textbook definition is. Now, to conserve, as defined by Merriam-Webster, is simply the act of preserving or protecting environmentally and or culturally significant places, things, or resources from harm or destruction for future generations to partake in or enjoy. Ergo, conservatism is the philosophy of preserving traditions, resources, wealth, and knowledge to benefit one in the present and those who wish to partake in the future. But most importantly, conservatives seek to prevent those very said resources from overuse, as to not exhaust these items for the same amount of future use. Now, conservatives use a euphemistic system of rationing to make those resources last much longer than they otherwise would have. Now again, it's in my opinion that this set definition fits the Sith as a whole, but especially the Dark Lords of the Baneite era, especially Lord Bane himself. During the Great Jedi Schism of 1010 BBY, former Jedi Master turned Dark Lord of the Sith, Skir Khan, formed the new Darkside Empire comprised of thousands of Sith Lords and Darkside adepts that he dubbed his Brotherhood of Darkness. Lord Khan identified what he saw as a fatal flaw in old Sith teachings, namely that the old ways of the Sith focused entirely too much on the acquisition of individual power, and that it led to centuries of betrayal and dissent within the Sith ranks. However, it is here that we see that Khan has abandoned one of the most, if not the most, central tenet of Sith philosophy, and that is the paramount nature of individualism. Now, even though Sith achieve their ends through violence, brute force, and manipulation, they still represent the individualistic system of only answering to themselves, never bowing to what they saw as an oppressive governmental system. In the days of the old empire, the only way for a Sith to achieve ascension is through playing to their own individualistic strengths in a Darwinian race to the top. The way Skir Khan set up his new brotherhood is through so-called egalitarian operation. Any Force sensitive with a propensity for the dark side was accepted universally and automatically given the title of Sith Lord without really having to earn it. In this new system, all Dark Lords were equal, none of them surpassing each other in power, titles, or privileges. Once you were accepted into the Brotherhood of Darkness, you achieved the title of Sith Lord, never being afforded the chance to ever raise any higher in status. Now this was Khan's misguided way of preventing jealousy and backstabbing amongst his acolytes. Everyone had the same amount of resources, goods, and holdings. Now in the real world, we do have a special name for this. It's called communism. It looks good on paper, but fails miserably in practice. In the formation of the Brotherhood of Darkness, we also see a particularly insidious system of thinking that's put on full display here. Now, Skir Khan implemented a system of equal outcome rather than equal opportunity, meaning that no matter how hard one worked within the Brotherhood, they would never be able to achieve a status higher than what they were. In the eyes of Lord Khan, this was a perfect way of achieving equality, but in reality, what Khan was doing was practicing equity, not equality. Now, to further expand on this claim, we see a staggering amount of hypocrisy within Lord Khan himself. While on some level he did wish to achieve some form of equality, or rather what he saw as equality, Skir Khan certainly did not want to see himself toppled from power. Now, it's my belief that Lord Khan represents a central socialist government who enforces so-called equality amongst its citizens while at the same time ruling from on high and only interested in keeping the power that they have to enforce upon others. Now, the sad truth of the matter is that the only real way a supposed egalitarian system stays in place is for an authoritarian government entity to enforce that egalitarianism with an iron fist. In all reality, Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness was more oppressive than the Sith empires of old, not less. But such is the way of all communist systems. One of the most powerful Sith Lords to ever live was born not of wealth and privilege, but on the backwater mining planet of Apatros. Now the boy who would be Bane was born Dessel, the son of a poor miner who was abusive and belittling to his family. Dubbed as the bane of his father's existence, Dessel knew the life of back-breaking labor, and despite the abusive ways of his father, grew into a strong and resourceful worker, rich in stature, cunning, and undeveloped potential of unseen powers within the tapestry of the living force. Now already we see the makings of what will develop into a staunch conservative mind within Bane. Modern day conservatives are always crediting their experiences with hard work, sweat, and sheer determination as the forces that shaped who they are in later life. Now of course Darth Bane is no different. He is forced to work for everything he has, lest he doesn't eat. Now, what is one of the main staple anecdotes of what most conservatives say nowadays? We often hear the tales of pulling oneself by one's own bootstraps in order to achieve success. We also see that due to Bane's harsh environment, he is forced to conserve all the resources that he does have. He can't afford to be liberal with just about anything. Fed up with his father's abuse, Dessel unwittingly kills him, unconsciously using the Force to literally crush his father's heart while he sleeps, thus unlocking the dark side nature that lied within. As life continued, Dessel's own passions, namely his desire to acquire wealth and prestige in order to leave Apatros, was feeding into his dark side aura. His chance came when Dessel killed a Republic officer and was smuggled off-world by a friend to escape punishment. Yet the only way to secure his passage off Apatros was if Dessel pledged himself to fighting for the Brotherhood of Darkness. Now Dessel agreed and served with great distinction amongst the greater dark side forces overseen by the Brotherhood. During his time with his platoon of Gloomwalkers, Dessel fought with bravery and honor, saving many of the lives of his fellow soldiers in the process. Dessel's latent Force sensitivity was felt by a close confidant of Lord Khan, and thus he was sent to the Sith homeworld of Korriban to train as a true Dark Lord of the Sith. Now once on Korriban, Dessel found himself a true underdog, as most of the other dark side students had been training from birth. It's here we see one of Bane's most notable, and yes, conservative traits once again shine through: his sheer determination. Dessel threw himself into his studies. He lived, ate, and breathed everything Sith, spending almost obscene amounts of time within the Sith archives, absorbing any and all knowledge from the ancient Sith masters, such as Tulak Hord, Freedon Nad, and Darth Revan. Yet it's within this time that Bane noticed something that troubled him. Most of his overseeing officers were trying to discourage him from learning from the past Sith teachers, Noting that Lord Khan had overhauled the Order and essentially done away with an old patriarchal system in favor of a new egalitarian type of organization. It was in this that we see Lord Khan's true disdain for Sith tradition. And I can't put my finger on it, but all this sounds eerily familiar. Anyway, over the course of several years and of his own trials, Bane simply could not reconcile what he had learned from ancient Sith traditions with Lord Khan's current philosophy of equity. Bane saw the Sith, much like the ancients had, as enactors of the rules of raw nature. The Sith were never meant to be equal. They were meant to be individuals. Bane was starting to feel nothing but contempt for Khan's order, seeing it as weak and directly spitting in the face of the old masters that came before. Signaling his utter disgust with Khan's philosophy and in accordance with his growing defiance, Bane fully gave himself to the dark side and sided with the old Sith tradition, finally taking the title of Darth Bane, as the moniker of Darth had been expressly forbidden by Lord Khan, as, to him, it expressed a sense of supremacy. Under Khan's Brotherhood, all Sith were to be equal, a notion summarily rejected by Darth Bane. Escaping to the planet of Lahan, Bane further honed his immense powers in the dark side. His traditionalist philosophy also further evolved. It was on Lahan that Bane cemented his rule of two, taking his cues from Darth Revan that all Sith Lords must only take one apprentice at a time, leaving only 2 Sith in the known galaxy. One to wield power, and the other to crave it. Bane also scoffed at Khan's view of the Force itself, seeing it as a liberal perversion. Bane compared the power of the Force to a virulent poison. The more vessels a poison occupies, the weaker it becomes. However, the more concentrated a poison is, the deadlier it is to its enemies. With the dark side occupying only 2 vessels at any one time, its power would be unmatched. It's now that we see Bane's conservative philosophy come almost full circle. Only through the failings of Khan's equity and egalitarianism, Bane saw the strength in traditionalism, the merit of true individualism, and the power and potency of the conserving virtues. He remembered his hard-working days back on Apatros, and how, all along, he was truly a self-made man. It was his own merits and the sharpening of his own passions and strengths that got him to where he was. Solely relying on others leads to nothing but disaster. Now Bane actively plotted the destruction of Khan and the Brotherhood, as in Bane's own words, it was nothing but a cheap forgery of what true Sith were supposed to be. Using trickery and manipulation, Darth Bane managed to convince Khan to use an untapped dark side weapon he learned through ancient Sith holocrons. The weapon was known as a thought bomb. In a last confrontation against Master Hoth of the Army of Light, Khan foolishly fell right into Bane's trap, unleashing the thought bomb, effectively obliterating the Brotherhood of Darkness and leaving Darth Bane as the sole surviving Sith in the galaxy. Eager to implement his rebuilding of the Sith legacy through his new rule of 2, Bane found a new apprentice in a 10-year-old girl named Rain. A powerful Force-sensitive, Rain accepted Bane's leadership and became the Sith apprentice to Bane's master. She was now Darth Zana. In the ensuing years, Zana became a powerful Darksider, but Bane worried that she did not seem eager to challenge him for the mantle of Sith Master. This showed that although Bane championed individualism, his ultimate concern was for the survival of the Sith Order, for future generations to enjoy his same level of power. This demonstrates that conservative thinking can simultaneously allow for both individual ambitions as well as concern and care for future generations. The incredible life of Darth Bane finally came to its end when Zana engaged in lightsaber combat with her master, killing him, thus perpetuating the rule of 2 through her own apprentice, Darth Cadmus, and sparking off arguably the most successful era of Sith in galactic history, lasting well over 1,000 years. This only culminated in the rise of Darth Sidious, the near extinction of the Jedi, and the formation of the Great Galactic Empire, thus making Darth Bane, in my humble opinion, one of the most prominent conservative characters in all of written fiction. But you know what? You tell me your thoughts down below. Do you agree with my assessment of Darth Bane? Are there other conservative characters in Star Wars you'd like me to cover? Let me know. Like, subscribe, and as always, remember to question everything and trust no one. Till next time.